made. A new sentence then, these minutes will be on file in the administrative office.
Right. Okay.
The word amending bothers me a little
Okay,
bit.
and it did me. I was looking for.
Is it correcting?
Um,
Is that new sentence at the end, these minutes will be on file in the administrative office?
yes. Actually, no. Before, well, it is the next to last sentence. We would still have, by consensus, the board agreed that this procedure will begin in the future. Help me with a different word for the amending, and I agree. It's, just, it's the current meeting, but I wanted to be sure we were.
If they're correcting, all we're doing is correcting them.
Right.
We're not amending them.
That's right.
So what word can you use instead of amending?
Let's say
Okay.
Mr. Sandelin suggested the corrections should be.
Should be.
That would say we're correcting.
We've got new corrected minutes there in just the end of that sentence.
Oh, he has?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah,
Oh,
new
I don't
corrected
have it.
minutes,
I
yeah.
don't have it.
Well,
So-
that was one of the words.
Well, can we do this? Mary asked me to take a look at this today. I mean, because she was not satisfied that this said what was intended. Is that what we chatted about earlier? I'm making.
I would suggest that Mary and the town manager, yourself and Janet, work on this and present it to us at the next meeting so we can
Thank
get
you,
it
Dave.
over and done with.
Thank you,
It's
David.
a good idea.
What's needed, sitting here all night discussing it.
Thank you. I'll give these to Janet. It'll be worded, and then you can take a look to see if that satisfies the description at the next meeting. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes.
Second?
It was seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Educational issues.
I have, I'll do it for announcements.
Citizens' concerns. Mary?
Yes. Today, there was an article in the Rutland Herald about yet another incident of sexual offenders in the school system. And while my children are grown, I do have nephews and nieces in local schools. And they said that there is a national database identifying those types of offenders. What steps have been taken by our school system to access that database and in an effort to prevent those persons from entering our school system or other community activities in which that offender would come in contact with young people, such as counselors, clergy, and scoutmen, who are networking with the school system
Are you asking that as a question?
as a citizen's concern.
It actually sounds to me as though that would be a question for the school board.
It might also be police. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, right.
I can tell you that if the legislature is presently working on legislation that will create, I just said, a database and some other stuff. That's one of the laws that the legislature that they're working on this session. I don't think right now legally that information can be released. That's why we're one of the 4 states in the country that does not have that type of legislation, and they're presently working on that.
They
It's a
were
good
reprimanded
point.
from an individual from Vermont.
I know that you can't release information about,
That's a zoo job in New York State.
Yeah, that's skip to.
yeah, you can't release information of a person's record. There is legislation right now that they're trying to put a law, make a law that will create that database and release that information.
Dave?
He will go on
That's
record
right.
as being an
That's
necessity, is that right?
That's right.
In the educational system.
what that says is, it applies to all of us, and anybody in the administrative end of things. If you have an employee that does something and you want to say, if you resign, that's the end of it, and he walks away, that no longer applies. You're still going to be liable. Of course, that has been a way of solving many of those problems in the past.
But that's after the fact. I would like to see something to prevent it from occurring in the first place. If we have that database to be accessed, as Joe said, it's maybe pending at this point in Vermont, why not access it and have that information as a preventative measure rather than access it after the fact?
I'm sure
What's
the
the answer,
school would
Joe?
be working on something like that.
I guess you should contact the legislators with their concerns, but we're working on that now.
Is anyone here on the school board? Thank you.
Normally, we have someone here from Neshabie School, and, but not tonight.
I
So,
guess
I don't-
the item is misleading to me anyhow. I had thought that there were anything.
Oh, right, I can see
Oh,
why.
yeah.
That's
Yes.
why I brought it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
it says education issues.
Yeah.
You're right.
that's too bad, Mary. We appreciate your concern on that. Ken?
Yeah, on that subject, that's a delicate subject. So most mechanisms in that case, in the school system, are internal. If it's a policy of the district administrator or of the school system, you finally have to do administrator. Most schools written the potential civil rights consequences.
Who would be helped?
You have to go to your legislature, because unless it comes from the state, it's not going to happen in most schools. Because it is a major issue with school use.
Well, who is liable? I mean, say situations such as this occurred at Otter Valley. Who would be liable? School administration, the town?
The school, I would think.
Who would have to be?
Mhm.
You'd have to get back to whatever administrator okays the final hire. If he's not presently employed, you'd have very little recourse unless you've got something from the state. There are civil rights groups in the federal system, but that's a whole new system all the wax. Now you're inviting a cascading effect, and it gets out of your local control, and you end up with feds coming in because you want it done that way. Really, the whole system is designed to wait and see. When something happens,
We'll take care of it.
It's too late for the child who has to live with that the rest of their life.
that's something that has to be taken up politically. It's a cascading effect. If there's such a thing as, there is a difference between liberal opinion and conservative opinion, that's up to the voters.
I'm sure it's not, you're not the only one, Mary, that's concerned with this. I would presume this is, for many towns, this is something that they will want to push the legislature to do something about.
Well, I am part of the co-founder of the co-founding agency, which is pursuing that. That's why I'm asking.
If I could just say two things I'm familiar with. One happened in the state of Washington, the other happened in somewhere in Washington here. The local, well, it was a series of school systems that took a lot of money to finance. But what they did was set it up so that the school system posted a bond. If there was any sort of, trauma and sort of potential counseling on a long-term basis, then if the school was held responsible for the hiring and the difficulty, and that's a legal matter too, then they forfeited the bond, which went to those people who used it for remedial things. Again, it's after the fact, but it does have a preventative measure because the bond is substantial. Okay, and the taxpayer has to pay for it, has to finance through the school system. There's a separate agency that finance, and you know, it does have a restrictive effect on the school administrator's hiring process.
So the school would have no recourse against the government for not making that information accessible?
Most bond fights through the bond committee, whether a local bond issue, that were raised by the local district or area. And when it happened, they had no recourse at that moment, but it's in place now. According to the comments I saw, it does have a restrictive effect on the hiring process. So they're a little more careful. I can remember being in a school district that hired an individual to do maintenance work. I guess he was hired for the moment. The salary wasn't high. Nobody paid much attention. It only came to light after the fact. This guy stole a dozen computers, 40 typewriters. And the interesting thing was that 3 months before, by the way, he was still, hadn't been tried yet. He was out on bail. 3 months before, he had been arrested for stealing on a major scale from a local shopping center where he was doing maintenance work. Now, this was a big school district. Funded money, but what he did.
You might, Mary, you might be interested in talking to the principal up at the Michigan School. And they may have some internal program in place that could give you some information. Mm-hmm.
It's too bad Mr. Bowden isn't here
So let's get
tonight.
Are there any other citizens' concerns? Ken?
Just one thing about parking, which obviously is a restricted area. We have, in a sense, a town parking area, do we not? Where it's basically behind Mr. Rosen's area, behind the Lead Idea used to be there, the Village Craft. Is that where it is?
Town does own that property, yeah?
Yeah. Is there anything that lets the tourists know, people walking in the street, that there is a parking spot?
Not at the present time. It's part of the discussion that we're having with the upgrade and/or repaving projects that are in the works for Route 7. New signage is a part of that program, and we've had initial discussions with the state. In fact, we'll be meeting again with them this Thursday, but we haven't any final plans for that type of signage. There is a need.
Either end of town, you know, northern approach or southern approach, people go by the Chamber of Commerce with a little info. It would be a great asset. If they knew it was there, we'd make up for it, so to speak, with a potential business for downtown. The most restrictive factor I can see.
Employees park up there.
No, I think there has been a lot of concern about the safety back there too. I used to own one of those buildings and it was,
Can't they put lighting or something back there?
that, it could be done, but it wasn't, and people just didn't choose to park back there.
There's lots of money available if you talk safety from all different sources.
Well, there are some other considerations that relate to national highway safety standards in terms of the access, and we want to be certain before we start signing something that we have appropriately designed access so that the town does not take on any additional liability without understanding what that liability might be. I think we can all understand that the accesses to that area are narrow. In one case, in driving my truck down there, I've actually had both side mirrors rubbed on the sidewalls. So if you've got regular standard mirrors on a pickup truck, there's a good chance you're going to scrape those at the bank entrance to Park Street. And I think we need to be vigilant in how we sign that based on the safety of the access. So it is something that we are aware of. Would hope to create better pedestrian access when the Falls project is done this spring, but it does need some more detailed design work before we'd be comfortable actually just putting up signs.
Bruce?
Yeah, there is lighting back there. There is a street light back there, so it is a lighted area. And like Kenny said, we've encouraged, worked with the chamber in the past for employee off-street parking, and leave the parking spaces in the downtown area for clients. That's what it was primarily designed for, but if we want strangers parking back there, we do need to sign it and advertise it.
I think you'd also find that that type of enhancement would be in the scope of a planning grant that the town will be reapplying for in May in cooperation with the chamber, and I would expect issues such as off-street parking will be incorporated in that design plan request. So we'd have traffic consultants looking at that if we're awarded the grant money.
Would that obviously be built into any, well, I don't know how potential it is, but I hear about it quite often, any bypass system? This would mean that a good number of the people coming into town would probably defer, having no reason to go into town unless they be shopping there or touring. So I would think something along that line.
Any other concerns? Are there announcements?
I have an announcement.
Yeah.
On March the 15th, the governor will be in town to have lunch with at the senior center. And then he'll be going to the next school for the DARE graduation. If anybody's interested in having lunch, they have to make a reservation. If they're 60 and over, the lunch is $2.75. If they're less aged, it's $4. But they do have to make reservations.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Department reports.
You had code enforcement in your last packet. In my packet, I did not see other departmental reports, so I think we'll need to. I did not develop the full agenda, so I'm not. I'll see that you certainly get a February report in the first meeting package of March.
Could we make that a rule and regulation to have them the first of?
We got those two department heads here, we're gonna give us oral report.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Joe on police?
Busy month. We've done pretty well on doing our investigations. We got a meeting Friday with the State Communications Division regarding the computers, the state computer system and the specifications for the mobile data terminal. The state's working on with me and developing the bid specifications for those. All the cruisers are all working pretty well. We had put new brakes on both of those, both of our cruisers right now. The Blazer's going okay. We haven't really done too much to that. I think that's basically just about it. Anybody have any questions for me that I can answer?
These computers are gonna be in the car. Does it just store data on a disk?
No, the way this is going to work is hopefully, and again, what I've done is I sent notices out to, I located 17 companies that in one shape or form deal with this type of technology. I've received 6 responses. They all have a different way of transmitting the data. Basically, what it will entail will be a computer terminal in the cruiser that will be tied to the state computer system that will be in the office through a modem. This will enable officers to do much of their paperwork from the cruiser, run record checks and most of the other checks right from the cruiser without going over the radio. It'll save a lot of telephone calls, or it'll save a lot of going back and forth over the radio.
Any other questions? Ruth?
Just might mention that our overtime for the winter is over budget. We experienced a lot of weekend snowstorms, holidays and weekends. roughly $5,000 over budget for overtime. Salt is, I calculated last week, we got enough with what we got in the shed for about 2 more loads, and we're still under budget on salt. So depending on what the rest of the winter does on salt, we got about 3 loads in the shed, and we were right back to the back wall. The supplier couldn't supply us on salt. Frosties, basically a wet fall, and the January meltdown, we got frosties like you would see ordinarily. Rain brought back a lot of potholes, and we've been diligently trying to patch the potholes. Collin Road is horrendous this weekend. Potholes everywhere. We do have a meeting, Eric and I have a meeting this week with the flood damage folks, so possibly we can get some relief from the flood damage we had at the meltdown in January. Wastewater, we've had a couple of recent floods in the last month and a half, mostly up in the Valley next area up in there. Flooded some basements and stuff, so diligently flushing and trying to avoid those. We had a meeting today with Mike Sampson to try to set some per ton charges to institute the charges for the scale. Eric and I have yet to finalize those, but we met with Mike Sampson today and trying to nail that down so that we can start charging by the ton for C&D and some of the trash haulers by the ton. That's about it.
So in other words, that scale hasn't been used at all?
We've used it, Don did this past week, use it to compare with the recycles that we took to Rutland. We took a load of, 2 different loads of recycles to Rutland. And he weighed them here and he weighed them in Rutland just to compare weights, and we were within 70 pounds of what they had in Rutland on their scale. And we've used it to analyze the per cubic yard charge as opposed to the per ton charge, and it appears to set a rate that's even, and I think we're going to propose something that's slightly less than that to encourage the per ton charge based on some most recent renegotiations with Casella Waste Management. There's been a reduction in our disposal fees. What, $6 a ton, I think Mike said today?
Yep.
There's a new contract with Casella. So we need to reflect all those. So basically, I'm using it as a guideline. No, we do not have a per ton charge.
So when do you intend to?
Well, as soon as we finalize the rates in next board meeting, I would say.
We have to approve the rates.
Well, Aaron and I discussed that today. You want to feel that one?
Well, I think it's appropriate for you to at least review them and make recommendations to you, but it's a policy setting and a price setting guide that affects full constituency, so I would think it would be appropriate for you to review those.
There's going to be a couple other small changes that are going to be recommended. There's going to be, currently the metal is free. There's this, Mike suggested in Addison County charges, in Gleason Road, there were district charges, a small nominal fee for metal, because you have to handle it. You have to have some equipment time, some manpower time to handle the waste metal. And things like that there may be a small nominal fee that we currently are free.
Ken?
Well, you said you had 3 loads of salt. That 3 loads for your trucks or the 10-wheelers?
10-wheelers. And we have enough money without going over budget for 2 more loads. And we were almost back to the wall. We were down to like maybe 2 of our truckloads at one point in time.
You've got some coming, apparently.
We have 3 loads. I haven't ordered the last 2 of them.
We have some that's been delivered,
Oh, this is.
that are in the
this is-
warrants.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. I thought the warrant was done.
And you're talking about the road, the McConnell Road. You know, you fix two, when they do fix it, it'll widen a little bit, I hope.
McConnell Road is a Class 2 road, and we're hoping to apply for some Class 2 repaving monies. And there's a ballot item in the town meeting that we spend our paving monies on McConnell Road. Although the $90,000 it'll take 3 years to complete.
It's so narrow there, it should be widened some.
McConnell Road basically needs the drainage renewed, you need some ditching, and you need to renew some of the culverts, which we started several years ago, and then we're told to stop. Yeah, it doesn't have much of a shoulder on it. I'm not sure. The idea would be to reclaim it. The pavement on McConnell Road is not worth overlaying. It needs to be reclaimed and gravel added to it.
It's reclaimed itself.
Yeah. It was bad this weekend. I went over it.
So for what it's worth, let me tell you that Route 3 is equally as bad, and that just got repaved this summer. So the frost is affecting the brand-new surfaces just like it is the old ones. So, I mean, it's not just the roads in this town that are seeing the effect of the frost.
Oh, Route 7 is going south anyways,
Yeah.
is bad.
Mother Nature is in control of that.
It should be something like, because it is a busy highway, especially in summertime.
Fiscal?
I really don't have much of anything. It was a short, short order here. I have a question for Richard, as long as he's here, on recreation. I saw a lot of checks going out for adults, but how about children? What do you?
I think a couple of those are for children. One of them is Peter and Karen Sutherland.
Oh, really?
They had a show at the training school life center on Saturday. And then I think they have another show in the evening at another location.
But do you do anything else winter time for recreation for them?
The Winter Concert Series has every single week, there's a children's program throughout the 2 months. So there's 2 adult programs every weekend and 1 child's program every Saturday afternoon.
But do you not see to outdoors activities and things like that? Like skating?
We have skiing at Killington, where we're just a pass-through. The money flows through the recreation department. We have story time and pajama rama, I guess, at the library. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they
It's
do
been hard
that.
to do, to organize other things without a director.
Probably that's true. Okay.
Yeah, how is it?
The interviews are all taking place this week. We're interviewing 9 individuals.
Happened a little bit later than you told me.
No?
Oh, I put you on
We
the
set a February 1st deadline for receiving them, and with 95 applications, it's taking us long to review them and schedule interviews, and all the candidates who are still in the running so far have submitted a 500-word written essay that we requested, so we have that from them, and we'll have interviews this week.
I guess when you get down the wire, you're going to do a background check.
And in fact, we are going to be doing a background check. One of our committee members is a teacher and has access to the national database, and we'll be doing an access check.
Was there a question, Ken?
So I just wanted to make a positive affirmation on what I believe. Coming from an area with 50 times the population, is nowhere close to the recreational activities, particularly in the wintertime, that are available here. I'd like to recommend some sort of commendation to Michael Shane, who I think is at least the idea man behind the concert series, which is as good as anything I've seen. I really would like to see him get the recognition on it. Not enumerations, just make that available in this small an area, that was nothing. That, in the town.
Pat?
There's been some comment about possibly taking that into the schools, like the high school, and having like a program for all ages. You know, not just for adults or just for children.
I really don't have anything else.
Okay. None at this time.
I move the warrants be approved
Second.
Moved and seconded, the warrants be approved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Are there any other reports here? I guess not.
Well, you got a couple things for us here.
Oh, that's right.
Right, all right,
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Okay, you have one purchase order in your packet, which is the polymers. I've actually signed that and placed the order. My concern was the lead time of 3 weeks for the delivery of that. It has not yet been shipped. We checked today, so you will be approving it if there's any concern. But the problem is we need the polymers when we do get a heavy spring runoff, or it won't have any effect. It can't be shipped until the vendor is confident that the weather will not go below freezing during the transportation time, because this material cannot be exposed to being frozen. So that's what we're dealing with. So I wanted to get it ordered. It is ordered, and it may have even, Steve, did you get any further information in talking with them today?
No.
Okay. I would hope that with the weather that they saw forecast, that they may have shipped it, late last week, recognizing that
There's another part to
the weather may be appropriate.
that. There was another sheet to that.
The other one, yeah, the second one is one that I gave you tonight that was given to me today.
You didn't get all of
No,
them.
that's got to be, the one that Mary has in her hand is
Yeah.
one I need back.
All right.
Okay?
And
Thanks. So I would recommend the approval of those two purchase orders for materials for the wastewater.
It's been moved and seconded
polymers.
that we approve these two purchase orders. Any discussion?
One purchase order.
Oh, you're just doing it for one, not for the other one?
Yeah, but
Okay,
You can tell us the story on the August two, then we'll do it all one.
all right.
I'll have to have Bruce tell you the story on the augers, because he just passed this along to me today and asked it to be brought.
The replacements, and we like to have one set of each on hand. There was some consideration and talk about the replacement of the truck, but it's a year away, so we have two augers that are worn thin that need replacing immediately, and we have none on hand, and then the rest are just for stock. It just takes one little stone, but then an auger, as Ken knows, and it's useless.
It's gonna be on two different make sailors, that's why.
Yes, two of them are one kind, and one of them's a double auger, and the other two are single augers.
Yes.
They're similar.
Truck 6 and Truck 7 are the two trucks involved.
Both purchase orders.
Okay, moved and seconded that both purchase orders be approved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
What about this highway?
That's a recertification which documents the number of state aid assistable miles.
We're a little bit out of,
Excuse me.
we're
Sorry.
out of,
Yep.
you want to take that up now?
I'm sorry, David
Yeah.
was asking that question. I didn't look at the agenda.
Dave, is it okay if we wait
Sure.
and take that one up later? Were there any other reports? Did you have anything on?
What I could do is just, from the general administrative point of view, we had two of the community-oriented policing committee meetings this past month. We're meeting again tomorrow night to finalize a questionnaire which is being developed by Dr. Michelle McCauley from Middlebury College. She's doing this as a public service project, helping us identify a public questionnaire about policing and service levels that the community would like to see. Both the budget and the town report were completed in the first part of the month. Town reports have been mailed to the constituency. We've had meetings with the Agency of Transportation concerning the repaving of Route 7 through the center corridor of the village, and we have subsequent meetings on that to go into the design detail on that project. We know for certain that some of the paving in the Route 73 corridor on Marble Street and Pearl Street will be done in this construction season. It is possible that the downtown portion, because of its width and the depth that we may need to go to really bring it back to surfacing, may not be able to be done until 1997. That's part of the discussion we're having with the agency so that it's done properly.
When they do this down the main drag, are they gonna rip that up to lower it?
That's why we're having a discussion, Ken. Normally, they will only go down one course of 3 or 4 inches. We are negotiating with them on how the town could pay for the additional reduction in the height and negotiate some way of doing that as a cooperative project, and we don't have definitive answers from them yet, but they are cooperating. The agency is being cooperative, but they can't do for us what they wouldn't do for another municipality as well.
That's taken off, the way it's, material, that can be applied to a gravel road permit.
I don't know. I would expect that it could.
It can be used for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
You can even make a cold mix out of it. It can be sifted through a 3/4 inch screen and add some cold mix asphalt to it, and you can use it for a base course of asphalt on an untreated road.
That's part of this.
There's a variety of things you can do with it.
That's part of the discussion we're having this Thursday morning with Al Campo from that department. We've signed all of the agreements with the state to proceed with the project, and now it's a matter of getting into final design stages. The Brandon Industrial Corporation is still in active and serious negotiations with a final decision for the Vermont Tubs project. There's no new word on that as of today, but I believe that they have reviewed, the Vermont Tubs Corporation has reviewed the other site alternatives that they had in mind, and it still looks like the Brandon Industrial Park is still the preferential site. Some of their management is gone until the end of this week, so we will not have a final decision until late this week or early next week based on their travel schedule and their management team getting together. And that's pretty much it in general for the...
Art, I thought your summary of the taxes were very good, and I would like to see a comparison of the 2 February collections perhaps appear in Dateline Ranger.
Okay.
I mean, what was turned in last year and what was received this year.
Okay.
Good idea.
Glad to have some other information for you when we get to that report that may be helpful for you as well.
Number 7, approval of the NINEX rights of way.
This is really a formality. Bruce has reviewed all of these rights of way with NINEX and how it might affect sidewalks or roadways. There are 2 specific plans, one on Church Street and the other on Marble Street, that NINEX is looking at again and going to have further discussion with some of the adjacent landowners. Doesn't affect the fact that they will be putting new poles in. This project is to bring taller poles in for new lines that need to be strung. They need to separate the electrical from the telephone by a wider margin. So this is something CV and NINEX are doing cooperatively. It's really a matter of just resetting poles in the town's right-of-way. Your approval will be concurrent with Bruce's belief that this is, project is fine. He's looked at virtually all the pole locations. The questions that he has, I've tabbed in their material, which is a part of one of the approvals. What I will do is do a cover letter acknowledging that the NINEX representative and Bruce have had discussions about the alternatives that could be considered in those locations. Then I'll let them make the final decisions based on further discussion with the adjacent landowners. There's no problems with them. It's just a question if there might be a preferential way setting some of the poles back a little further from the road so that they would not create as much of a traffic hazard by being right as close to the road as they are. That will require chatting with some of the adjacent landowners. Even though the poles will still be in the town right-of-way, it will be a change of location that NINEX always confers with the adjacent landowners so that they know what is going on. So it's not a change other than site location, which needs to be reviewed. So your approval is consistent with what Bruce has looked at. I would recommend that you do approve these.
What streets are they?
It's Franklin Street, Carver Street Extension, Church Street, Goldspink, Marble Avenue.
Street.
Those, I don't think there was any.
Marble, Church, Carver,
Old Brandon,
Franklin, there's a little bit
Old
on
Brandon Road.
Yeah.
They're all, Ken, if you like, I think I've recited them all.
That I talked to the man in here today, and I spoke to Richard, actually, I didn't talk to the other guys, but, the poles on Marble Street are between the sidewalk and the road, and I'm asking to see if they couldn't relocate them behind the sidewalk, because that's a very narrow strip along through there.
Planning on having their own traffic control when they do these projects?
I believe they are fully responsible for the work. They're just asking for approval that is recorded in the town records.
Most of them, just so you know, are replaced in kind, except they're color poles. In other words, they're gonna set a new pole or set an old pole. They're upgrading the amount of power being carried, and they have to have color poles.
This is what they've done on Pitt Street. Where
Ken, there's also a very short section on Wheeler Road that needs upgrading, but it's not very long. The other streets we mentioned are all inclusive of these drawings.
Move approval of these easements to replace the poles and annex.
I second
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the NINEX rights of way. Any discussion? All in favor, say, Jack?
How many trees are involved?
On which,
On any of these?
on any of them? None.
There's one,
Basically, none.
Yeah,
They're all replaced in kind
there's one
on Church Street.
on Church Street that is in question and has been
Yeah.
discussed with the landowner, and NINEX intends to go across the street and then come back to avoid the tree that's there. We've asked them to go back and take a look and see if there's, just to be sure we're not creating more of an eyesore by going across the road twice than we would be by pruning a tree. Would not be taking the tree down, it would be pruning one of the larger limbs, but not the trunk. To my knowledge, there are no trees which will be killed or disposed of with this project.
Some of them obviously would be trimmed because the poles are gonna be high,
Yeah.
so they'll be trimmed a little bit here and there, but the only trees really affected is the one that Art mentioned on Church Street, and then the relocation on Marble Street will affect 3 fairly good-sized trees, which is still up to negotiation.
That trimming process can be pretty ugly. If you drive by my home, you'll see what I mean. They supposedly were going to do a weed trimming to free up the wires, and they aborted, and it just looked horrible.
Do they clean that up when they?
They clean up for
They
the
do.
most part, the large,
Then we'll get back here.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? The Rabies Review Preparedness Program, number 8.
Yeah, you were given a copy of the health officer's memo concerning a rabies preparedness program. I have reviewed that and want to rely on your judgment as to how involved we should become in the detail of a preparedness program. This is material that was hand-delivered to you at your last meeting. It was not in your packet. The state health officer, Dr. Johnson, actually he's the state public health veterinarian, Dr. Bob Johnson, sent out a memo in late January just encouraging select boards to have an awareness program, an educational program. Debbie has read that and responded with some recommendations. My concern is that we don't have a budget. The health officer is not able to identify what the cost might be, which is a part of, I think, of the consideration. I have no problem with looking at an educational program and trying to coordinate with the veterinarian here locally and other surrounding veterinarians, which Debbie is recommending, and looking at some way to do a volunteer census or get one started. But if it's considered, which she is indicating, to go literally door to door to the 1,800 households in Brandon, I have some concern about what we would be incurring in costs. So I don't wish to make a recommendation that would be that far-reaching without understanding what would be the cost. What I'd like to think we could do is, with some help maybe from the school system or some volunteers, is to get some folks on different streets who would volunteer to do a census within their neighborhood and turn it in and hand out some educational materials. The real issue here, as I read it from Dr. Johnson, is really awareness, less so than enforcement per se. That if people are aware, if you see a wild animal that's acting strangely, not to engage that animal. I mean, call a game warden or call a police department and try to have that animal disposed of appropriately, or the animal control officer. And it's really an educational issue more so than the census issue. Although a census would be helpful, it would certainly identify how many dogs and or cats we have that are or are not vaccinated. I'm not sure that we have the fiscal capacity to just make the commitment that we're going to do that. And I would like to work on some volunteer programs before we made that kind of a commitment. Debbie has indicated that if the select board is willing, she certainly is willing to work with some of the surrounding towns to see if we can identify a location for a confinement, a quarantine facility, which is one of the things that we are lacking. I think, if anything, that may be one of the biggest issues. If we can identify a quarantine facility that we can rely on, that would eliminate one problem we've had. Recently, we had a similar situation. The dog didn't actually break a person's skin, but they did nip at them, and there was not room at the Humane Society to retain that dog for 10 days. Had it actually broken the skin, we would have had to find some place to quarantine that animal. And I think that is one of the things that we need. That to me would be the first priority, and then work with the health officer to direct an organizational effort to see if we can get a volunteer census done, or at least the start of a volunteer census. Other than that, I don't think that the town, I think there's plenty of publicity in the windows. Debbie's been doing a good job of following up on the unlicensed dogs in coordination with the constable. I have talked with the constable early in February to do some follow-up on those still unregistered animals, which I'm going to review 1st of March at the end of the week. So I think we're doing the things that Dr. Johnson recommends, with the exception of a census. And if we can find a way to do that in a volunteer program, it may be a valuable piece of information.
Ken?
Is there any, let's say an incident happens, is there any internal mechanism in the town where there's a response level, a response system to a rabies problem, where the town doesn't have to go, or the individual doesn't have to go, or both have to go to what are essentially outside police or supervisory agencies? Or, calling in a game warden, or calling in
We respond, the town and town personnel respond to any bite incident. The health officer is obligated to respond to that, and she does, and coordinates that with either the constable and or the police department for follow-up and quarantine of the animal. There's a formal procedure in place.
I'd just like to ask if he has any memory of a response on our hill. Fortunately, it turned out that it was rabies. It was distemper, raccoon distemper that bit the local dog. I was just wondering if you had any response. So about Pleasant Valley, I do it.
No, there's been a number of raccoons that had to be destroyed in the village this year. A number of them. It's really hard to say. We don't. The game one was not count. Any of these animals that we destroyed that are acting peculiarly, especially during the daytime. They generally do not unless set them up and have tested the animals. so after dating the carcass, it's really.
Put them in the house. and
The
told
reason
them
I,
to
I,
stay
because
there.
I
It
was
was
aware of the story
bad.
after it happened.
So,
Our neighbor let their dog out. It was early in the morning. The raccoon had gotten into their wood pile, which is adjacent to the house underneath the shed. So let the dog out. The raccoon attacked the dog. They took the dog back in, and the dog, went out again before it was gone and attacked them again. They had tried for a response and didn't get one. It may have been early in the morning, but there was no immediate response. It ended up that in order for them to leave the home,
They call the police?
I believe they did. I know they got the warden, called the warden.
The warden-
They ended up shooting the dogs themselves, which is, shooting the raccoon.
Oh.
And then I believe they paid for testing, whether or not the animal was rabid.
If a call has been made to the police department, an officer would have responded. So I'm not aware of an officer going up there. It might have been dispatched notified the Fish and Game officer.
Because raccoons go through the game warden, not the animal control officer or the police. The animal control officer handles only the domestic animals. And sheep, horses. But we did get Sergeant Coons, the police chief, Mr. Duca. I asked who
Yeah.
And one other officer has done the surveys in the past. Pretty regular.
Probably
Well,
no
the cer-
registering cats.
It's a voluntary thing, as I understand it.
That's
Yes.
going to be
Yeah.
a tough one.
They by law need to be vaccinated,
Oh, all right.
but it is only,
By law,
But it-
pardon me, by law, they have to be registered, not that kind of, they have to be censored and everything else, you have to take a census on them, by law.
You should.
we're talking about cats?
Cat?
And,
Yes.
Okay,
and won't I,
And that's the duty of the animal control officer.
and I've got all those other ones, all done.
Okay.
I found seven, about 15 that haven't paid, they said they're gonna be coming up last week or the rest of this week to do it. But a lot of times, you put anything on the paper, and the same 80% will always take care of the dogs, come here, and if you don't go and see the other people, they say, oh, I thought we did it. And a lot of them, when I went there the last few weeks I've been going, they said, well, we got our tag, that means it's registered. I said, no, just because you got your shots from the veterinarian, that doesn't mean, they think it's registered document, they take it.
Do you have a question, Ken?
No, just a comment on that most studies will show that home raising, so to speak, raising that gets into the home comes more from cats than it does from dogs. On that line, I'd like to see a program made available where cats are licensed like dogs, which requires, they have to have the fee. There is no one.
There is none.
That's,
Okay.
No, there's no law.
There is no law that you have to get them registered.
that's going to be very difficult too. When you take, farms with cats running loose.
If it's the biggest source of, if it's a prime source of potential rabies, then, and a cat, is much more in the home, in all sense.
Hasn't been in 100 years.
My 3 cats have had it.
Cats in the barn, we vaccinate, but if I gotta register them, we're gonna find a way on the sidewalk down here.
Can we,
And what's gonna happen is people are gonna keep dumping them off in all the farms around town.
Yeah, you're right, Ken.
Yeah, in that sense, an ounce of prevention and so on and so forth.
All they're asking the state is to see how many are around and they're vaccinated. They don't ask you to register.
Like, if you vaccinate the cats in the barn, we're not gonna register them, and people are gonna dump them out on the farms that they do now. So we select the ones we wanna keep and then take care of the rest.
number 9, approval of the state road mileage certificate.
That approval is simply to confirm to the state that as of February 10th, We double-checked the mileage. It hasn't changed. We have the same number of miles of state aid eligible roads as we had last year.
I thought we added some road.
We haven't, we weren't able to get the deeds from Mount Pleasant Road in time to meet this deadline of February 10th. The paperwork is still being done by the attorney for the development, who assures us that it's going to be completed. Debbie has had correspondence with John McCarty, but we don't have the paperwork in the town records as of February 10th, so we can't claim the mileage on that. It has to be documentable in the town records. And we do not yet have the deed on that.
Is this a little late by chance? A little late? It says February 20th, so I said, is it a little late?
They will accept this. I mean, this is the first meeting that we've had since reviewing this communication.
Being involved in that, if I may interrupt, is there a mechanism by which the town can be more coercive?
Yeah, we could charge the development for the cost of plowing the road unless we get a deed.
Yeah. Well, right now, legally, we're in between. There's nothing we can do, since the corporation is technically defunct. What legal response do we have? In either direction.
And we have no deed.
Well, my thought is, tax them.
Tax them.
If they,
That's true.
somebody has to be liable for that road.
I
Somebody still owns it. They claim they don't. We don't, you don't. If there's an accident on the road, what will the insurance company do? They'll sue the person or group most obviously liable. In which case, that person is potentially, right now, the person that we should be trying to nail. Because they're just going to drag and drag and drag and drag.
Isn't this going through the same thing that when you first came to us to plow your
Why
road?
don't you get this approved, we can
And you
discuss
tell
Mount
us
Pleasant Road
that,
separately.
Okay,
Tax them. That'll move them.
just, excuse me,
They have to be liable in some way. Somebody has to be liable. We're
Can-
not.
can I, excuse me just a minute, we need to approve this and then we'll discuss this later, okay, your problem. We need to approve this
I'm
highway.
sorry, just that
Yeah.
you listen to the same thing now for a long time. And you come up against the deadline. I don't see where we, per se, have to be dragged into this. And we've done everything we can. We put a lot of money into facilitating, the potential takeover.
Okay, we're going to vote on
What needs to be
this.
done, we did to facilitate it.
We're going to vote on this now. Did we have the motion?
So moved.
And it's been moved and seconded that we approve this highway certificate of
I'll save
mileage.
his signatures.
All in favor, say
Aye.
And opposed?
If I could offer an explanation, no one from the town is threatening to do anything other than try and complete the legal work in alignment with the town ordinances, which require a minimum size buildable lot. This road is subdividing an approved lot into two sections, one of which becomes too small to be a buildable lot, and the attorney is trying to work that out with the zoning administrator. That is the reason for the holdup. The town has in good faith been plowing that road for 2 years with no expense to anyone, and I think the town intends to continue to do that. And the town is also trying to complete the legal documentation of that right-of-way. And just as soon as we can do it, we will add that mileage to the reimbursement schedule.
At that time, we were told that they would have a deed coming to us.
They have had a deed to the town office for quite some time. The deed is done in such a way that it creates an undevelopable lot under our zoning ordinances, and the development is trying to get that worked out so that they don't lose a piece of developable property, and that is what's being discussed at the present time. That's why the deed has not been recorded. We're trying to accommodate the development by not eliminating a developable piece of property from that development.
Okay.
Yeah, and I go back to tell my people that it appears that the problem is not a current one. It's a problem that goes back to the original conception of the road, design and acquisition and registration. Is that when the problem started? Something happened at that time, which would be what, 72?
I don't know.
I do not know.
Never came up.
Well, the road went through that parcel, and apparently The condition that exists now has existed since the original conception of the road.
I would have to check when the circumstance that creates an undevelopable piece of property took place, and I would be happy to do that and correspond with you. But I do not have the answer to that.
Art, I think the thing is in the hands of two attorneys.
Yes, it is.
And I think that's where it remains until there's a solution.
Oh, another 5 to 10 years.
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah. Number 10, town manager's report.
Yeah, I had indicated with the questions on the tax delinquencies and the status of collection that I would give you more updated information. Jack, I'm sorry, I should have made extra copies, and I may have one here because this is a question that came from a request at the last meeting. Let me switch with you. In essence, what this chart shows is the collection history for each fiscal year. The two most current, the one that we're in, 95, 96, through the 3 quarters which have been billed and are due. And then last year, which would still not be deemed to be delinquent until May 15th of this year, which is the way the procedure has run in the past. As part of a more formal recommendation when Denise gets back and we can work out some recommendations, we've had initial discussions, but I think the board needs to seriously consider moving up the timing on when we consider taxes delinquent. The effect of that, in my estimation, if you look at page 1 under the taxes for 94, 95, and it shows 89% collected on June 30th of 1995, what that means is that there's $378,000 that's outstanding that has not been collected. And if we were able to borrow money at 6%, which I don't believe in today's market that we can, just for the 4.5 months it takes to go to the next billing cycle, it's costing us $13,000 in interest expense. And that's within the fiscal year in which those taxes should have been collected. I think it's inappropriate for the town to be carrying that kind of additional interest expense by simply saying we're going to give somebody 2 years before we consider them delinquent in their taxes. That will be a recommendation that I will bring to you to try and accelerate the collection on these. Really amounts to about if you annualize that, you're looking at a $34,000 a year interest expense for just the uncollected taxes that are here. That reflects also on the last page, doing a calculation on the delinquent taxes for 93, 94, going back even another full year, those that have not yet been collected. Those taxes annualize to an $11,474 expense if we have to borrow that money which has been budgeted. And as you know, we've budgeted to spend what we collect, and I can assure you that we've always spent it. I mean, Richard, as an auditor, we haven't sent anything back to the taxpayers. So what it really amounts to is an additional $11,000 on top of the 34. I mean, we're looking at $45,000 a year potentially in terms of interest expense the town is incurring. Now, you make the assumption you can collect it all, which we aren't going to get it all on time, but nonetheless, if we can establish penalties for late payment as opposed to incentives to pay early, which don't appear to be working, I truly think that there can be a better cash flow realized in the years to come, and do intend to present to you a series of recommendations on the tax cycle. Can't do it this year because these will require voter approval. But I think if we look to have voter approval at the next town meeting, I mean a year hence, or if we have a special one for some other reason, that within the next 2 to 3 years we can see an improved cash flow by just demanding payment more frequently. You may recall recently the new Diamond Run Mall was 10 days late on their taxes, and Town of Rutland put them up for tax sale. I mean, it was that simple. They were 10 days late, and that's the way some other surrounding towns approach it. Not suggesting that we be quite that rigid But certainly there's a big difference between a town looking at property in 10 days after it's due and our practice historically of waiting for 2 years before we say you got to pay. So I think what this points out is there's room for significant improvement in the collection process. I do not necessarily agree with the assumption that we can't do it in May simply because it's the end of the fiscal year. I know that's a busy time. I know we're closing the books. But if we have a procedure established that is really clear, I mean, it's a matter of the word processor putting the correct names and the amounts in a form letter and then letting the attorney handle it and add those expenses, which we do now anyway. No, I did not write that. I had no authorship on the cover memo. That is a historic statement of what has been done as an explanation. So I think that needs to be reviewed as well. I'll just say, at least I think we have a better handle on what the magnitude of it is, and that I'm confident we certainly can do a better job, and we'll bring some recommendations to you on that.
Did you?
Instead of waiting for 1 year like you suggest, Arthur, would it be cheaper to have a special election, seeing that you're saying it's $13,000 you're paying just for interest?
Yeah, certainly it would be less expensive because a special election will cost in the order of $500 to $600 total with the checkers and so forth. And for a special election, it actually goes quicker because you don't have as many ballot items to count. So, yeah, it probably could. But it could, but there's a whole policy issue here that relates to schools as well because of the school taxes. And the issue is not as simple as just setting some new dates. It really requires some coordination with the school district and when they hold their annual meeting and when they do their budgets. That should all be, I'd like to package that as a series of recommendations that try to create both a collection process but also a meeting process that gives us a little bit more time to know what the state is going to be sending us for state aid before we develop our budgets and set the tax rates. I mean, we've set our budgets and then you can calculate a tax rate. We don't know how close that is. The legislature hasn't even done crossover on the budget for schools yet. And yet we've set a budget for taxes based on a number that we think is accurate, but we have no way of knowing. So it's a combination of some things that I'd like to do in detail. It would probably be summer or early fall before the board would really have a chance to coordinate with the school board and see if we can do this in one series of considerations rather than doing it in 2 or 3 different considerations.
Mark, do you have any idea what the average legal cost is to process one of these taxes?
No, but that's covered when there isn't an average because as a percentage of the tax bill is a part of how it's calculated. And how quickly somebody responds is another consideration. If somebody doesn't respond promptly, there's more legal action involved. The lawyers keep, not by state statute any longer. There used to be, but I believe state statutes have changed where you must charge them only for the work that's done on that tax sale itself. But one thing that we're not doing is we're not assessing the penalties that are available to us by statute. This town does not charge the late fees that are available to it in state statute. And if it did, it would cover some of the costs of doing those collection processes.
John?
All right. If I let my taxes go delinquent and I let them go full term, in other words, so that the town had to foreclose on my property for the year, do you have any idea what the cost annually would be on a percentage basis?
No, I mean, I can get that for you. It would really depend on what your tax bill was if you're dealing with percentages. If you're asking what's the additional cost, you certainly have an 8% penalty that's going to be paid if you actually go to delinquency. So immediately you've got an 8% increase. If you actually go to tax sale and somebody buys it, you're going to have to pay 12% on the value of the taxes that were paid. So, I mean, at a minimum, I think you're looking at a 20% increase if you allow your taxes to go to a delinquent state and then recapture the property before it goes to someone else's ownership. But as a percentage of the tax bill,
You said it.
Yeah.
You're up to 20%.
Minimum of 20%.
And you're going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
What I'm after, you have very nicely here, percentages of collected. I don't give a hoot about what you've collected. What I'm really caring about is the people
What
out
isn't
there who
collected.
have not paid, and that you educate them as to how much it is costing them to borrow money from the town. And you just said close to 20% if they go full term.
If it goes,
That is
absolutely.
expensive money.
Absolutely.
And if the town, the board, would only educate the delinquent taxpayers that this is an expensive way of borrowing money, you would have a lot less delinquent taxes.
It's only expensive if you go beyond a year. If you wait within the year in which the taxes are due, with this 4% discount that's offered, I submit to you that it's a fairly inexpensive way to float money because you can borrow it at 4%. You can use that money for something else for a year for 4%. Now, once you get into the second year, the 8% kicks in, and if you go to full collection, the 12% kicks in. But there's a mixed bag here because of the discount procedure that we use. So it depends on whether you're trying to borrow money in the first year that it's due or the second or the third. It does get expensive after the first year. I wouldn't argue that. Currently, for 1994 taxes, 1995 taxes, those that were due last May, we have an unpaid total of $257,493. And that amounts to this town of about $7,700 in interest expense every 6 months that it stays delinquent to that amount.
I guess I'm confused because the town report shows a balance of $237,000, which allegedly includes penalties. How can you have a number of $257,000 just for 1994-95 taxes?
I'm not being kidding. I am reading a report that I picked up off my desk from returning from vacation this morning. So, I mean, this is from the general ledger, Richard.
$257,000?
What I've done, yeah, I've taken, it's rounded off of the $3,400,000 on the last page. It shows delinquent taxes for 94, 95, which should have been due May 15th of 1995. And if you take the total it was billed of $3,490,888 and subtract the amount that has been collected through February 15th of this year, there's a remaining balance of $257,000 outstanding. We're 93% collected, but that 7% amounts to $250,000. It hasn't been collected, and it's almost, well, it's a full 9 months after that tax year is ended.
With a period in mind, let's say 5 years.
And Richard, I don't know, I'd be happy to sit with you. It's probably something if you and I could sit down and look at the two. This came off the general ledger and does not include penalties, according to this summary. So,
I don't think that figure includes the delinquent sewer taxes on the next page, Richard. There's another 27,000.
Well, this shouldn't have any sewer tax in it.
no, these should be the general fund property taxes. That's the report that I asked for, and I believe that's what was left for me.
Ken, you had a question?
I wanted to add an analysis of what is the rate of delinquency. Okay, and
I have not, but I could certainly interpret that from these reports. I didn't look at it that way. Looking at it quickly,
been on the increase for several years?
No,
Same.
And it's quite similar to what it is in other communities around the state, according to the figures from the League of Cities and Towns. So we're not entirely abnormal.
Delinquent taxes over a year or just delinquent period, whether it's 6 months or
this shows only taxes that are in a previous fiscal year. This does not include, we have a summary here right now for this fiscal year. We have collected 60% of the total taxes billed through the third quarter.
I think you're looking at the town report, aren't you?
Yes.
They're looking at the town report, and
Okay.
and their question is, the total taxes there, are they for several years or one?
Well, this should be the accumulated.
They accumulated,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
where
Town reports, when they get the delinquent taxes, these people, a year or more late, or none of them are under a year, right?
That is correct. Those taxes are only for people who are over a year in arrears. Your name does, your name, yes, but it will be cumulative. Your name is not published in the town report until you are over a year delinquent.
Are any of these being protested? Is that why they haven't been collected, or any of them involved in legal action?
There's a large one which is in bankruptcy, and that's Grand Union.
There are, all of these have had legal action taken against them. That is why their names are published in the town report. Anyone?
I guess I meant, are they protesting against the town for any reason? Is that why they're not?
No, there, to my knowledge, there is no action in front of the Board of Civil Authority with any of these cases. Now, there could be based on the tax sales that are pending, but at the present time, I don't know that you have any action before the Board of Civil Authority.
Thank you. Does the town have a process for filing for deferred taxes on March 15th?
By state statute. And Denise has always worked out payment plans with people if there's a good faith effort to do something on a timely basis.
Is there any other business?
Madam Chairman, I move that the board and the town manager go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded, we go into executive session. All in favor, say aye. And opposed?